This
And
conference will now be recorded.
So what we'll be able to do is send you a link to the video. So if you would like to refer back to this, you'll be able to. So unless there's any objections, I'll go ahead and get started with FastReporter. Now, if you do have questions, go ahead and ask them. We do ask that you stay muted for the presentation unless you do have a question. If we don't, we get a lot of background noise from people, things like that. The chat window, I also have the chat window open. So if there is a question that you have, go ahead. You can also just put it into the chat and I will see it and go ahead and answer it. So starting off with FastReporter 2, I like to start off with, I like to start off with how to set up your screen. In this case here, there's multiple windows that you can use that are beneficial to you in doing FastReporter. This screen right here, this large screen, this is where you will see your traces or any of your results that you plug in. Here is where you'll see all of your different result files as you bring them in. Down here, you'll see information about your results, such as thresholds used or fiber IDs, different things like that, and we'll review that. And then down here are some tabs within this right-hand screen, which can be of great importance. Files, you see your files. Measurements, this shows each of the measurements that is attached to that file. A breakdown of the identifiers used, and then match files is an important one, which I will show later, as far as making sure that everything is in order for your fiber IDs, cable IDs, and any other identifier that you're using. Where you change these is right up here in the view button. So here you can see results window, measurement window, and so forth. If I turn one of these off, it disappears. Turn it back on, there you go. But this is a good setup. This will allow you to see the information you need to see prior to doing any reports or anything like that. Of course, we have toolbars. I have right now all of the toolbars turned on. Different things are useful for different reports. Up here, we have your file, which is going to be your open, your save, just like really any other program. Your view, where you can see information and how you want your various reports or results to display on the screen. Settings, this can come in handy when doing a project where you can change some of the items if you want to change in mass, or you can change individuals, such as coming here to OTDR. And if you go to pass-fail thresholds, you can, right now this button says that it's taking it from the files that I bring in. If I go here, I can now globally change the thresholds for whatever's on the screen. But generally, if you set up your OTDR correctly, you'll just leave it in that position. This will come on once I have something in here. EXFO Connect, if you have the EXFO Connect software, you can log in and do some cloud storage of your results. And then tools is that. This is where we'll go to do a report. Also, this is where, if we go to options, you can also change what type of measurements are supported within FastReporter. And this is where you change, using the display, where you change your distance unit of measurement. And as you can see here, there's 5 different options you can pick from depending on the nature of your trace or any of your reports. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and bring in some files. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. The easiest way that I find is come right over here to Files, right-click, and you get a right-click window. And simply go to Open File, select where you want to go, and select what you want to bring in. In this case, we're going to look at OTDR. To start off here. So here I've brought in my OTDR. First things that it shows, first things that you see is, sorry about that, my screen's jumping on me. First thing you see is that I get a pass fail right off the bat. So I can see what passes, what fails. I see the file name, I see what type of file it is, and the direction that is involved. Now, a benefit of FastReporter is the fact that if it can fix a lot of issues that may have happened at OTDR, but it is limited to a point. And what I mean by that, if you're shooting your OTDR and you use the wrong thresholds, or you didn't specify, maybe you're doing bidirectional tests and you didn't specify that you're now shooting from the B side instead of the A side. So like you come here, if these were bidirectional results, and you come here and you realize, oh, I just shot everything A to B. With FastReporter, you'll say from here down was supposed to be B to A shots. What I can do is I can highlight, and then either using the icon up here at the top, or again right-clicking on the highlight, I can come here to direction. I can change B to A. I've now changed that information. Let me change it back. If for some reason my fiber IDs are incorrect, say I come here and they don't belong, they're not labeled like they should, like this one says port 9, but it says fiber 7. I can come in here, I can change it. So I've double clicked down here in the results, and I can change it to 9. What you can change is anything that you see here that is white. If it's gray like this, these are hard set. I can't change these within FastReporter. But I can change the job ID, the customer name, the operator. In the summary, I can't change the results that it received. If it read, it's reading 2.738. That's what it read. This is something you cannot change. So if you shoot your results with the wrong settings on your OTDR, like with pulse width or duration or length, that is not something that can be fixed at FastReporter. That is a reshoot if it needs to be taken care of. So here, this was shot with 30 nanosecond pulse. I can't change that. That is something only the OTDR can do. But I can change my thresholds on how it looks at it. So maybe right now, this is saying that a unidirectional splice is 1 dB. And well, here's a better representation. For the section of fiber here, the attenuation came in bad. Came in at, or well, yeah, came in bad. We'll say for what I'm doing, I had done that incorrect and I'm getting a fail. So I come here, let's see, need to be better than 1.7. I can come in here and go, not this is an accurate number, but I'm going to do 1.8. So I just set 1.8 on this. So now if I go to the event table, and the reason why it's showing yellow is because there's a warning. Let me take the warning off. There we go. And now I'm passed because I fixed my thresholds accordingly. Now, if you want to do a global change, you can go and set it up like I showed in the settings, where I'd click this button and change per the wavelength that I'm dealing with, or you can come in here, highlight, and then make your changes, and it will change for everything that is highlighted. So when making changes, you need to be careful. What are you changing? And what don't you want to change? Because if it's highlighted and you change something and you didn't mean to do that, you got to go back and fix it. Let me see. Sorry, excuse me. Okay. Now with, so I'm going to go ahead and change this back to on that one that I was back to, I think it was 0.4 that this sample was set for. Okay. So now it's back to a loss. So once you go through, so what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to put these correctly in an order. So say in this case, this was supposed, these are in order, and it was supposed to be 1 through, I think there's 9 here, 9 here. And my fiber IDs are incorrect. And I know what order they're in, so, and I want them in this order. What I can do, a couple things I can do. If I want to globally change it, I can come here and go highlight them all, right click, go to auto documentation. I want to change the fiber ID starting with 001. I'm going to click OK. By doing that, as I scroll through here now, each one is now in order 1 through 9. Now say I didn't want that and I wanted individual, you can do like I showed you before, come in here, pick the one you want to change and say, well, this shouldn't be 9, this should be 10. And you can manually change it and so forth. Now, going and reading your traces, you can see here where there's a trace. Each one of these numbers, just like your OTDR, is an event. This is the beginning, this is the end. So if we come down here, if we go to summary, it's going to tell us what our span length, our span loss, any average loss that, the average loss that it saw, what parameters we shot it at, and test settings that it was shot with. You'll find the same type of settings in your OTDR. Let's see here. We have a question here. Are the changes to the fiber ID updated in the trace file? It will if you save it. So any changes that you make here and you want to keep, you need to save. So you can come here, and if it's only one file you changed, you could say save selected files, or you could come here and say save all, and it'll just save everything, all files, the project, everything, and your changes will be reflected on your traces. Thank you for that question. So also reviewing here, information, again, this is your thresholds. You have full ability of changing any of these. So again, if you do it wrong on the OTDR, you can change it here. Your event table, this is going to show you each of your events, your sections, just like, again, your OTDR. And then if you're using the A and B markers, this is where you will see where each of the placements are. and can adjust accordingly and get your information. So one thing I want to show before I move on is matched files. So I'm going to come down here. If you remember, I set all these up in order. So if I come here, I see exactly how I would want it. So in this case, I have 9 different results, and so it shows me 9 different fiber identifiers in order, except for the one that I changed to 10. Now, one thing that can happen is if what I've seen is some people don't change their fiber ID on their tester, they just shoot with whatever's there. So you may end up with something where you may have two different traces have the same fiber ID or cable ID if they're not supposed to, or if they are. And I come to matched files, and now instead of seeing 1 through 8 and the number 10, I have 1, it skips 2. And what I see here is instead of 1 OTDR trace, instead of 1 OTDR trace for fiber 1, it now says that I have 2 files for fiber 1. Now, you have to decide, is that correct or not? In this case, it's not. These are all separate strands of fiber. So what I can do is go, okay, that particular file, that's incorrect. That should be number 2. And so if I go to matched files, another thing that this comes in handy with is if I go back to files, I go to open file, and now I'm going to bring in OLTS shots. So now I have OTDR and OLTS. So I'm going to organize these. And again, do these match? Now these already have labels. Let's see here. So if I had done this correct, if these were correct, what we would see here is fibers 1 through 8 and then 10, and we'd see a second file of the OLTS shot. Well, in this case, none of those OLTSs are labeled to match the OTDR, so FastReporter thinks they don't belong to each other. So if I come in here and go back and start here at the top and go and start labeling these the same to match, and also because it has a cable ID, it also thinks they don't match. So you got to be really careful of both your fiber ID and your cable ID. So what the recommendation is, and when I teach people about OTDRs, I do the same thing. Set up a standard. If you don't already, set up a standard within your company of how you are going to label your results and be consistent throughout an entire project. So, and I use this because I've experienced it, a fiber characterization test that someone had to do. So that's 2 OTDR shots. They were bidirectional OTDR shots, a bidirectional loss test, and then dispersion testing. Well, for FastReporter to understand that everything belongs together, if they started with the OTDR and they went to their first fiber, and say they started calling that fiber 1 and they were doing 12 shots and they did fiber 1 through 12. When they did the B to A shot, they needed to start with the same fiber that they started with number 1 and call it number 1, not just use the next fiber ID. Just change your direction to B to A. And then when they did the OLTS, the same thing. Start with the first fiber, call it fiber 1, and use the same naming structure through all of your tests. If that was done, FastReporter, if it's done correctly, FastReporter would again pick it all up and understand that fiber 1 would belong with the fiber 1 for OLTS would belong with the fiber 1s with the OTDR and the fiber 1s with the dispersion testing. But instead, it was whatever number was next, it looked like it got used. So instead of having 12 results with multiple files, I had a list probably as long as this screen, if not longer, of what FastReporter thought was separate strands of fiber. So I physically had to go through and create a numbering system. Once I was done, everything was correct. I could do a simple report. So FastReporter can be your friend if you give it the right information. If you don't, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult. It's going to take you longer to get it done. So let me go ahead and get these OLTS out of here. Okay. So here we have back to our OTDR. I've looked over everything. I'm happy with everything. The fiber IDs are correct. All of my thresholds I want where they are. So now it's time to create a report. You can come up here to Tools and go to Report. It pops up this little screen. So first off, you specify where do we want to save my report. If this is not the file, I can just go ahead and click here. I can go where it's in my drive where I want to save it. I can even make a new folder somewhere. You then you actually jump all the way to bottom and specify what file type you want to make. FastReporter 2, you can make Excel spreadsheets, you can make PDFs from Excel, and then we also can do a PDF from Crystal Reports. The reason why I say come down here first is because, and it's really up to preference, the reports are actually slightly different between the Excel reports and the Crystal reports. How it presents the information, how it arranges it are a little bit different. So it's again, personal preference. Generally, I use the PDF from Excel template. Now, if I wanted the Crystal reports, I click that, and as you can see, things changed up here, and it does it a little bit differently. So I'll go back here to PDF from Excel template. So now I'm doing an OTDR test. So you scroll down to find what you are doing. So there's OLTS, there's OTDR, PMD. If you're doing IOLM, there's an IOLM category. So I'm going to stick with OTDR, and I have all these options. So I'm going to pick OTDR. I leave generate individual report files turned off. No check mark. The reason is right now, when I create a report, it's going to create a singular PDF with all of my results for everything that I wanted a report of. If you have this clicked, it is going to give you an individual PDF for each file that each result you're trying to do a report. So instead of being one PDF, we're going to have 9. So it's a little bit easier to deal with one report. You may have an instance that you need everything separated, so there is that option. But if not, I would leave this turned off. Leave the Start Report Viewer on so you can check your work, and then give it a name. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it default, and I'm going to click OK. It's telling me that report already exists. I'm just going to say OK to replace it. And now, depending on the speed of your computer and how many results you're doing will determine how long it takes to get the PDF up. And here it is. So this is what a report looks like from the Excel template for PDF. You have your information. I'm sorry if you see that black square. I'm not sure why it showed up. You see your information, including your fiber ID. I have everything in order. Location A, location B, what test parameters were used. Right here, I can see that this is the 1310 result. And on each of these, you can see 1310 listed. It gives me some of the results, my trace, along with the event table, and the thresholds that were used to create the pass-fail. As I scroll down, I come to the next report, which is 1550 for fiber 1, and then 1625 for fiber 1, because all 3 wavelengths were done. And then as I continue on, I come to number 2. So FastReporter can line up everything for you, can put it in order, wavelength order, and give you one nice PDF to do. At this point, are there any questions that anybody has about this? I have not seen anything else come in on the chat, so at this point I will continue on. But again, if you have a question, just shout out or do the chat. So let me show you what other results look like. I'll go ahead and bring in those OLTSs again. Now what you're going to see down here is that depending on what you're selecting, the results screen will change. But you have same features. Again, if it's white, you can change it. If it's gray, you cannot. You can change your thresholds per wavelength, and it gives you the table of results that were taken. So we have a question here. It says, I always use the Excel, so can I change column widths if needed, then print to PDF? Yes, you can. If you use the Excel template, let me do this with the Excel template. So I'm going to go to report. I'm going to go to OLTS. I'm going to do a fast test report. Oh, sorry, I meant to do it in Excel. Apologize. Report. So I go down here, I change it to Excel. Then I do the fast test report. I click OK. It is running the program. Okay, so here's my OLTS in Excel instead of a PDF. Now, the trick for doing it this way, though, is that you have to have a PDF writer, because now you've jumped it into Excel. So you need some sort of PDF writer. There's free ones out there that you can use that will work. I used to use one that was installed as a printer option. So if I needed to put anything in PDF, I'd just go to print. I'd scroll to that printer option, click OK, and it would print. But here you can see I can adjust as needed. If there's things I don't need, I can remove it. I had somebody that was wanting two different reports or two different styles of results on a report, and they just needed numbers. And so I was able to use a particular report in Excel. I deleted the columns I didn't need and went forth. What's nice about here too is if you do it in the Excel, say you want to put your company logo right here, you'd be able to do that and then print your Excel result. One other thing, we won't go into it today, but you can create custom templates for Excel. I had a customer that wished to have a particular, a pass-fail where the particular test they were using didn't have one. So worked with EXFO. EXFO created a template. I got to the customer, they installed it, and now they have maybe a report like this, but it has a little pass-fail icon up here at the top. So there is ways, if the standard doesn't work, there is way to create custom ones. Generally, I bring somebody from EXFO in to help with that, but it is possible. So hopefully that answered your question. So you can bring in pretty much any of your reports that you're doing, and you can bring in SOR files also, if that way. Let me go here. One last thing with the information. If you see here, even my toolbars change. So when I click on an OTDR result, my OTDR manipulation tools, such as zooming in, zooming out, things like that, I can move it around, go back to one-to-one, and so forth. So that is FastReporter in a nutshell. Before I move on to FastReporter 3, does anybody have any additional questions? Okay, looks like one question popped up. Question is, how do you get so many columns in OLTS? That has to do with the, bear with me, that has to do with the type of report and type of information that was shot. When this was done, most likely, well, let's see what it was done with, which this was done with an old unit, an old FTB 3930 and a 932. So in this case, it's showing the wavelength. It shows my loss from A to B and B to A. This also has the reference columns in it too, if you need to see that reference number, what it's basing it off of. But you can see I have A to B information, I have B to A information, I have the average between the two, and then it gives me my individual ORLs and fiber length. I take it you don't, for your testing, you don't see as many columns. We can take a look at that and see if there's something that needs to be changed. Let's see here. Okay. The next question is, how does FastReporter 2 differ from FastReporter 3 for displaying bidirectional shots? And let me show you what a bidirectional shot looks like here on FastReporter 2. And then so let's say these two are bidirectional shots. I don't have any in here with me. So first off, my bidirectionals need to match as far as fiber ID. So this is fiber 7, this is going to be fiber 6, so I'm going to call these both fiber 7. These. Okay. So there's fiber 7, so we're going to call this one the B to A. Now, when it comes between FastReporter 2 and FastReporter 3, you're going to see that they're actually very similar. So I'm going to go ahead. It's saying they don't match, but yeah, it's not going to let me because they don't match. I need some bidirectional. there really is no difference between the way they're viewed. Let me see if this will work here. There we go. Wasn't behaving for a second. I'm not sure why. Okay. Let's see if these two will work. Okay, there we go. So there is bidirectional, how it'll look. Report-wise, I'll do a quick report for bidirectional. So here I'm going to select the OTDR bidirectional. I'm going to go to PDF. And here's what a report for a bidirectional trace looks like. You have your information. This is 1310 and it shows the bidirectional result. Then if I keep scrolling, goes through all the information. I'm still on 1310, but now what it's going to show me is the individual results for how we got the bidirectional. So here's the A to B, and here's the B to A. And I can tell by the location of the testing device. So then it'll continue on to 1550. So let me go to FastReporter 3. So here's FastReporter 3. As you can see, the screen looks pretty much the same. I have my same windows. The only difference on how to view these windows is instead of going to view, you now go to home and select them here. You have each of your individual types of tests up here. You actually have a report button now instead of tools. So now you just go up to report. So let me bring in those same trace files. So I did it the same way. I right clicked. Just waiting for it to run here real quick. I'm having to make the computer think. So bear with me a second. Sorry about this. Decided to go a little slower. There we go. Okay, so now I have the same results in FastReporter 3. I'm going to go to those same traces. Now, I did not save, like the question before, can you save information if you change it? Yes, you can. I did not save, so I have to come in here and make a change. And then I'm going to change this one to B to A. Okay. So now I have, oops. There we go. Now it's showing me the two traces put together. These really aren't bidirectional. You can tell here because they should be the same length, but it gives us a good view. So again, here we go. So we see it the same. Same information, same thresholds. And even for your bidirectional, you have bidirectional thresholds that you can adjust as needed. Now to do a report, I'm going to come in here. Now, if I want just a quick kind of down and dirty report, I can just hit this button and it gives me kind of a base generic report. Here I specify, do I want it as an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF? I'm going to leave it as a PDF. Now, if I had used the bidirectional report recently, I could actually just select it right here. But if not, I can just come here and go select. I get that same window. So I'm in report instead of tools. I hit select and I get that same window as we saw in FastReporter 2. Now, one of the differences is FastReporter 3 does not have crystal reports. So your choices are either an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF from Excel. I'm going to leave it as a PDF. I'm going to select the OTDR bidirectional. I'm going to leave these alone and I'm going to press OK. So as you can see here, the report looks the same. So if you're used to using FastReporter 2, you're going to have similarities to FastReporter 3 if you move to it. Now, both of them, don't think if you have FastReporter 2, I need to jump off of it and get 3. FastReporter, that is not the case. FastReporter 2 is still a fully active software and is still, in fact, we can still sell it. EXFO has not given any indication that it is going away any point in time. The biggest change between 2 and 3 is how the licensing is affected, and basically that's the biggest. With FastReporter 2, it's a 1 license per computer unless you have the USB stick dongle, which is then whoever has the dongle plugged in has FastReporter 2 on their unit. You can keep it in a central location. When one person is done with it, they put it back, somebody else can use it. FastReporter 3, instead of being a one-time purchase, is now a yearly. You can buy it on the 1, 2, or 3 years, and it's a yearly subscription. Now, the benefit by that is that it's no longer computer-based licensing, it's login-based licensing. So if you buy 3 licenses, you have an administrator, they can farm out the licenses to the people. So you could have 2 different, all 3 of those sent out to someone or 3 different people. They develop a login, they can use that. They can use it on any computer that has FastReporter 3 downloaded on it. So you could work at the office, and then if you decide to put it on a home computer, you could put it on a home computer. You do your login, you can now use FastReporter 3. But what if that person leaves the company? The administrator can turn off their license, delete their license, and reissue it to someone else. Now, FastReporter 2, whatever computer's on, it's on, and you have to get permission and other things and reactivate it if it needs to be switched to a different computer, different things like that. Where FastReporter 3, it's a simple login. So there's some pros and cons to either, depending on your situation and your needs, but the overall creating of reports is very similar between the two. So if you know one of them, learning the other one is just a couple-minute process. At this point, I've shown FastReporter. Are there any additional questions at this time? At this time, I don't see any other questions, so I'll go ahead and end it at this point. Do remember, we did record it, so we will go through the list and we will send you a link to this recording. And please, if you have any questions about this or anything else related to EXFO or fiber optics and communications in general, if there's something that we can help you with, please do not hesitate in reaching out to us. We're here to help. My phone, let me give you my phone number. It's 480-962-4849, extension 1. You can reach me. You could also reach out to Buck or Mark or Ryan or any of the other people in our office, or your local salesperson, Tammy or Eric. But if there's no other questions, I will let you guys get back to your day, and I thank you for joining us. Goodbye.